Gary Allard. I'm a photographer and the current chapter chair for the San Diego region of the American Photographic Artists. I thank you all for coming out tonight. This is really exciting. It's two of my favorite things, music and photography. So really looking forward to this, and I'm glad you're all here with us. If you're not familiar with APA, we are a national not-for-profit volunteer trade organization. We're run by photographers for photographers. We advocate, we educate, and we inspire and promote our community. So please learn more. If you're interested in learning more about APA, go to apanational.org. And also while you're there, check out the latest call for entries, which is the 2022 APA Awards. It's our biggest contest of the year, and it's always draws some really great artists. So please enter, check that out. I'd like to first thank Wendy Fisk, our tireless executive director of San Diego Chair, for putting all these great events together. Thank you, Wendy, for all of your hard work. It's very appreciated. So, and also our ongoing support from George's Camera, the Museum of Photographic Arts, and also Nelson Photo. They all support us throughout the year to help make these things possible. So, and then also for when we get going on this, please enter your questions down at kind of the lower right hand in there. So there's a Q&A section, and we'll be taking the questions towards the end of the presentation. So with that, I will kick it over to my dear friend, photographer, director, Bill Zellman. Thank you, Bill.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm super excited for this tonight. I know everybody is. Pooneh Ghana is a magnificently talented and accomplished photographer with a strong focus on music. Her clients include everything from Rolling Stone to Pitchfork, Billboard, and Fader magazines, Apple, Audi, Converse, and many, many others. She worked with so many bands, I won't even try to list them, but she's probably shot your favorite. She's closed the deal on a career most of us can only dream of, where you take the two sexiest thing on the planet, music and photography, smash them together, and get to tell your parents it's an actual job. She's also really funny and down to earth, and I'm so honored to introduce photographer and filmmaker Pooneh Ghana. Pooneh.
Hello.
There?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
How are you today?
That's so nice of you. I'm great. I'm finally back home. I've been traveling a bit, just doing a few shoots here and there, and yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited, a little bit nervous. I feel like I'm better at taking photos than forming sentences sometimes, but hopefully y'all will enjoy the presentation, and yeah, just have a few stories to share about, the last decade or so of me doing this, and just kind of some things I learned along the way. So yeah, I'm excited.
Where have you been recently? You mentioned you just got back from traveling. I know you travel everywhere.
Yeah. I just went back to Austin for a minute, and I had a couple of shoots out there.
You live in Austin?
I lived in Austin for 12 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I moved to LA right before the pandemic. Crazy timing, but time. Just started coming out here more for work, and it just kind of made sense to do it. But yeah, I was back there, and then before that, I was in Atlanta for Shaky Knees. I don't know if anyone was there, and then did Coachella before that. It's just festival season, so just
oh my gosh, it's
brutal, but I definitely realized over quarantine how much going to festivals keeps me moderately in shape, so I'm excited about that.
Are you taking care of a lot of your own, and people don't realize, I think, how difficult travel can be, especially if you're, and do you handle all of your travel itineraries yourself, and do you have help with scheduling and flights or accommodations or all that, because you're working long days and into the night, you're working late when you work often, and you might have to fly the next day. Do you have anybody helping you with any of that?
Most of it, it's on my own, but it also depends on the job. Sometimes if I'm doing a tour, sometimes, the band side will handle things, or most of the time how it works, which is easier for me as well, is to just kind of book everything on my own, because my schedule's constantly changing. I might be going to a festival, but then have to fly somewhere else last
You know
minute.
what
So
seat you like. Yeah.
aisle seat.
If you're
Weirdly.
like me, it's
Yeah.
the middle seat by the bathroom because it's last minute usually. Okay, well, you put together a fabulous presentation, and I know people are dying to see some of your work. Do you want to start into that? Maybe talk about how you first became interested in photography, or some of your roots, or wherever you
Yeah.
want to start.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I, put together this little presentation for y'all. And yeah, I thought I'd just kind of start off from the beginning and kind of how I got into this and, where I am now. So yeah, I thought it'd be appropriate to start with the early years. Yeah. So as we kind of touched on earlier, I was born and raised in San Antonio. And growing up in San Antonio, there, particularly for like a lot of the music I was getting into at the time, there just weren't a lot of shows happening there. And, Austin was only an hour away, and that just kind of became my escape. I didn't really connect with a lot of like the kids in my high school. I feel like pretty early on, I knew like, I just wanted to get the hell out of San Antonio. So
Sure.
I started going to Austin a lot more for shows. And then from there, started traveling more. Like, I pretty much like realized at a young age that I wanted to do something in the music world. I just wasn't sure what that looked like. And then when I was in high school, I think I was around like 16. Sorry if y'all heard some of this before, but the big thing that really got me into photography, I guess, was also music related, and it was the White Stripes. They put out this like peppermint strip Holga, like this limited
Yeah,
edition Holga with
I remember it.
lomography. And I remember getting like an email about that or something. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I've never heard of this. And of course, it sold out in seconds. Like, there was no way I was getting it. But that's how I kind of discovered what lomography even was. And yeah, like that same
Can
day
you tell
I
us what
bought.
lomography is? I don't think everybody here probably knows what lomography is.
Yeah, so lomography is kind of this, this big photo film community that's been around for a while now. But yeah, they're great. They do like a lot of making. I think the Holga is probably one of their most popular products. But they, you know,
And
make a
they're
lot of like really.
camera manufacturer and a community, right?
Yeah,
And camera and yeah,
yeah.
analog and
Yeah, and they make a lot of really cool, like affordable, like funky cameras. Like they had the fisheye camera. They had one called the Sprocket Rocket. That for someone that was like starting to get into film was awesome, because all these cameras were like 30-40 bucks, and you could buy one. And they also had the film that was really fun to play with. So I learned, like, I have lomography to thank for a lot of like those early years of me just experimenting with film and just kind of learning how much I loved it. And so, yeah, from there I started really getting into photography, and then just started taking cameras to shows and just kind of shooting for fun. And yeah, so these photos, obviously there's that Holga, that shot in the middle is just me. I tore my dress crowd surfing at a show at Emo's. But all of these were very like, formative times of me just knowing that this is what I wanted to do. That's me meeting Arctic Monkeys at South by Southwest.
oh
My
my
first
God.
my first year going to South by Southwest. And that photo from the show at the top was the Raconteurs at Stubbs. And I remember, I think I waited like 10 hours or something in that line. But those moments, like I used to camp out and wait, and I met so many people that way that, it was just like a special time, and I realized how much I really loved like the music community and just being in that. So yeah, so this is kind of how things started off. And
You were shooting for
then
yourself primarily at this point, just because you enjoyed
yeah,
it and it was just fun for you. And were you
yeah.
thinking at all about, had this turning into a career of any kind, or was it, you were just kind of caught up in the fun of all of it, and you loved photography simultaneously?
I think at first I was kind of caught up in the fun of it. And then I realized like, oh, I think this is actually something that I want to do, or I kind of want to be, throw myself into a little more. And so from
Yeah.
there, I started, I guess the original Instagram, Flickr. I started my
Huh?
Flickr account, and yeah, I just kind of started posting my photos in there. And which kind of goes into the next couple of slides. It's when I started getting really into Polaroid cameras.
Beautiful.
And yeah, so this slide and the next slide are a lot of the early Polaroids I took when I was just kind of shooting for fun. And a lot of it was just kind of meeting, artists at shows and just kind of asking them for a quick photo, and I think that taught me a lot about just kind of shooting on the fly. But not only that, it taught me how to just it taught me early on that it's like up to me to get the shot. If I don't ask them, I'm never going to get it. Or if I don't put myself out there and go and talk to people, nothing's really going to happen. And so I think that really helped me just get out of my shell pretty early on too. Like for someone who was like really shy and still is pretty shy.
And a lot of artists are really shy off stage. I'm amazed at how many artists I've met that have these huge personalities on stage and they literally can't you look in the eye. They're kind of, introverts off stage, and you have to get that out of them. I think a lot of people don't realize that too. They're not the people you see on stage, often.
Sometimes they are, sometimes, most, they're just humans, right? And the worst they can do is say no. And, when it's an artist I'm excited about, like there were enough times where I just psyched myself out of like being so scared to ask someone for a photo and just immediately regretting it. And I'm just like, why? It's like the worst they can do is say no. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And, I just started posting these Polaroids on Flickr. And then I remember like 2007, 2008, I think, this blog, Gorilla versus Bear out of Dallas, who are incredible. They put a lot of like artists like Leon Bridges, Animal Collective, like on the map pretty early on. And they were also doing a lot of Polaroids, and they found my stuff through Flickr. And one of the owners, Chris, we just started talking. He was like, what if I sent you money for film to start shooting some shows in Austin for us? And that's kind of how I got my first job. It was shooting these Polaroids just for fun, sharing them, just hoping anybody would see them. And, that's how I got my first job. And they still have a massive following, and just getting my work in front of those eyes. Like from there, I started shooting for Austinist, and from there, I started shooting for Stereo Gum. So it all just kind of, slowly started building. And yeah, so like these are all moments just kind of on the fly, like Julian Casablancas, there's, We Are Scientists. I remember I was waiting in line for that show and they just walked up. Dimitri Martin, I was in the music and entertainment committee in Austin, and he was doing a show. And yeah, so this was kind of like the beginning of the career, I suppose.
And how old-ish were you? You were still.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was like 2008, between 2008 and like 2011, 2012, like around that time, like high school, early college.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell from those early slides, I had a very like 2008 haircut, just like asymmetrical red hair. But yeah, so these are just like a few of the early Polaroids. And I think for the next section is just going to be, I try to just separate my work into live shots and portraits, and, just kind of share a few of my personal favorites and maybe share a few stories.
That is stunning.
Yeah. So, so this is a Cage the Elephant, and this is a band that I've ended up working with a lot, and just kind of seeing their career get bigger and bigger over the last decade or so has been like incredible. But yeah, they were one of the first bands to take me on tour, and kind of like I actually met them while I was on tour with another band, and then we just kind of hit it off, and then I started touring with them a lot. But I have a lot to thank them for really just like trusting me and bringing me on so much. And I think they really taught me a lot about like how it is to really be on the road, and just I don't know, they're great. So this is one of my favorite shots from them, is when they headlined Alexandra Palace. And the first time I met them was when they were opening for the I was on tour with Coles and they were opening for them and they played Alexandra Palace. So that was like one of the first times I met them. And then, so yeah, it was kind of a cool full circle moment. And yeah, Matt, the lead singer, is just an icon. But yeah, I'll just like scroll
What's it like to be on
through.
tour? I mean, just a little bit, like the grind of it.
Yeah, I mean, the lifestyle is definitely not for everyone, but I really enjoy it. I think I have a problem with like staying still for more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And I mean, I love just capturing that side of an artist. And really touring is every aspect of it, isn't it? It's like live, behind the scenes, just like it's everything in one. And I really enjoy just being a fly on the wall for all of that. And I don't know, a lot of times I try to think of like the photos that I wanted to see when I was like 15 or 16 of like my favorite artists, and I try to capture that when I'm on the road. But yeah, every tour is different. And I don't, it doesn't matter to me if it's like in a tour bus or in someone's town car or something. I think all of it is fun in its own way. Like the biggest arena tours are even the ones where you're eating dinners at gas stations. I think from a photographer's perspective, I'm just there to capture it. And yeah, I love it. It's not to say it isn't exhausting and it can't get to you. And you definitely, when you're doing it a lot, you definitely got to learn how to,
Moderate.
Get your self-care together a little bit, or it can get to you pretty quick. But
Say no once in a while.
You figure all that, you figure that stuff out as you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, this next slide, it's that Arctic Monkey shot, like that's always been a special one to me, because I remember specifically my friend who was a photographer, he was just like, oh, I think he's gonna jump in the third song. So it's really fun having that relationship with photographers sometimes, who either shot the artist before or maybe research and look at photos of them from other shows, and they were just like, oh, be ready, he's going to be jumping in the third song. So it's like kind of fun having that energy in a crowd in the photo pit sometimes, where everyone's just kind of waiting for it. And yeah, lo and behold, he did it. And so yeah, this one has personally been always one of my favorite live music shots. And
why
Arctic Monkeys were definitely a very, very formative band for me when I was a kid. So yeah, that was a great moment. And with the shot on the right too, it's a band called Viagra Boys. I think both of these moments, I think like sometimes it's a bit of luck, but I think luck and skill come into a lot of these things. And sometimes you get the moment, sometimes you don't. And yeah, with these shots,
work in. Yeah, you're there night after night after night. So if you miss one, you'll get the next one. Yeah, it's amazing how many hours you must put in order to get a shot like the one on the right, to be there at the right time, and the fact that it didn't blow focus, and it's just freaking stunning. It doesn't happen very often, right?
No, and sometimes for every like you might shoot an artist, and for like every 10 times you shoot them, you might finally get this shot or something. You never know. But yeah, I'll keep moving on here. I mean, same with this shot. So the fun thing about live music versus portraits is I love doing every aspect of it. I think even when I was shooting shows, and like, when I do festivals, I never wanted to just shoot live. I wanted to shoot like, I wanted to do BTS, I wanted to do portraits. And I think they both have their own set of challenges, right? With portraits, it can be a bit nerve-wracking because you're in complete control. Like you're controlling the lighting, you're controlling the framing, everything. And with live music, you're in the hands of whatever's going on stage. And it's fun to work with it that way. Because everyone's shooting the same thing, right? But like, how are you going to make it your shot? And if things are crazy, if the light's crazy, how are you going to make it work? And this was definitely one of those shows. I don't know if anybody has shot Death Grips, but their entire show is just strobe, like fast strobe the entire time, like notoriously difficult band to photograph. They're an incredible band, but really hard to photograph. And somehow I was able to get this one shot from the whole set and just ended up really liking it. And yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And yeah, same with these, sometimes being in the pit, like the Florence shot on the right, isn't always the best spot to be in. And, like I was saying earlier, like having both skill and luck, like I was definitely lucky I was in that spot and I chose to be there.
It's angelic. I'm totally disoriented looking at the one on the right, which I love. I love that about the picture. I don't know where I am. I don't know where this person is. Like what's happening here? Where are you when you're taking this picture?
Yeah, and I like doing that with my photos. I like confusing people.
Oh yeah, I don't
for
know
better or worse.
Yeah, it's such a big.
And yeah, same with the artist on the left. I forget how you say it. I think it's Gesaffelstein is the name, but looked incredible on stage, but wasn't really doing much. So it's more just playing with the light to make the shot look interesting. So it almost looks like a portrait, but just with the lighting. But yeah. Same with this one. It was I think this was like a Tumblr party I was shooting. And yeah, it just happened to be on the balcony. It was the second I got on the balcony, and it was as soon as I put my flash on, then I suddenly saw Wiz crowd surfing. And I was like, oh my God. So a lot of just having your spidey senses too, and just being, just being on it. You could see a couple of flashes in the shot too. Yeah, these are a couple of other ones. Mitski, Ammo and the Sniffers, Kate Nash, and King Princess and Beck.
You went over Kate Nash so fast. Can you go back just to observe? There's
yeah, of course.
That's fabulous. Yeah. That's
Thank
fantastic.
You. Yeah, that was during South by Southwest. I think it was at a Tom store or something, like in the patio. I mean, you know how South by goes, like every bike shop and coffee shop and stuff gets converted into a music venue. But this show was really fun. And this moment, it was maybe the last 5 seconds of the set, like as she was finishing. So definitely it happens repeatedly. But if you're shooting a show and you can, stay for the whole set, because you never know what's going to happen. The amount of times, like not just myself, but so many other photographers are like, oh man, I walked away from that set and then they went and climbed the rafters or something crazy. So it requires some patience. If like National Geographic photographers can sit out somewhere for like 80 days to get a shot. We can sit through a set for like 45 minutes.
I love every pixel on my screen right now. I love every pixel in this picture. I'm just absorbing all of it. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Do you crop much in post?
Yeah, definitely.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you don't need it, but I mean, the power of cropping. Oh my God,
it can make it.
It can make a huge difference. Like definitely with this Beck shot, I cropped it in just to kind of focus on that. I just thought the framing was interesting. And I actually shot that. I was on this tour with Sunflower Bean, but it was like Spoon and Cage the Elephant, and Beck was headlining. And Beck just had that giant globe on stage every night, and it was really fun. Just sometimes he'd play with it. I think he had a bunch of them actually, from what I recall. But it was like, that was another like personal challenge I gave myself. It's like, well, I'm shooting the same thing every night. How can I shoot him with like this one ball differently, and just try to make that interesting. But yeah, just giving yourself little personal challenges to like keep things interesting, and just to keep learning, really.
Yeah, we love hearing about your process when you're talking about being in the pit, and how do you make your shot different from everybody else's when you've got the same angle is really, really intriguing, because it's so true.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes you can't really do much, but
it sounds like you push yourself often, just like even just internally.
Yeah, you try.
Oh, slow down.
One of my favorite.
That's fine. Stay.
Okay. Another one where I'm sure Liquid Death would love this shot. But yeah. Yeah, the one on the left has definitely been one of my personal favorites because it just looks like angels staring straight into your soul.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's burning my screen. Who's on the right?
Yeah. That's a band. They're my dear friends. They're called Faux Real, like FAUX. And
Yeah.
oh my God, if you ever get a chance to see them, just complete creative geniuses, like so fun to shoot. Yeah, just sometimes you find those artists, you're like, anytime they play a show, anytime they do anything, I'll be there. And they're definitely one of them. And this one was a more recent one. And this was at ACL. And yeah, it was very timely because all the abortion ban stuff was happening in Texas. And yeah, sometimes it's fun to be able, I mean, the fact that like one photo can be like so impactful, and I think the skill of like photographers to just be able to capture something so like profound within like one frame is like, I know it's still, oh, sorry.
No, please go.
But yeah, just getting the shot and capturing this moment, I think, says something like really important.
The social documentarians and the people that used cameras as a tool for social change, going all the way back to the Farm Security Mission and Dorothy Lang and those people. I mean, these are really, really important things, and this photo might be really, really important 20 years from now. You don't know. It's wonderfully powerful.
Yeah, and like most of the time, like I feel like a lot of music photographers struggle with, oh, is what I'm doing important? Does this matter? And I think sometimes moments like this, or when you look at other people's photos and you see how much they impact you, just, even if it's not political, it's just like seeing the culture of something that's like different than yours, whether it's like music or, whatever makes an impact. So I think I try to remember that as I do this,
I think that remember, there's the lens of time and the filter of time. When you start looking back on things later, things that aren't important now. I mean, you have things for certain that are important now, but things that aren't important now might really, really be important, like I said, 15, 20 years from now, when we're looking back at this period and, how do we define this? And people like you define it for us. So it's amazing that you do all this work.
Well, thank you. I'd like to, I hope all of this isn't for nothing,
It's definitely not. And you don't have a whole lot of cool people listening to you because of that. All right.
All right. So from there, I was going to go more into some of my portrait work. And yeah, I love every kind of, I like shooting on location. I love doing studio work. Typically when I'm asked to do press photos, I enjoy shooting on film. I love doing portrait work on film. I do shoot a lot of digital now, but I still, when I can, and like when I'm able to, when deadlines allow, I try to shoot on film as much as I can. And, I started off shooting on film, and I feel like, for photographers starting out, I don't know, I feel like learning on film has been really beneficial for me as well, because, as everyone knows, every photographer knows, you take your time with film, right? You think more about what you're shooting, you learn more about the ins and outs of your camera. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that still, like, I still learn now.
Do you end up fighting? I mean, do you have certain clients that take well to film because their timelines allow it? Do people give you special leeway with that? Because I mean, a lot of people's clients wouldn't even,
no, like for the most part, it's mainly with live, when I'm shooting festivals and stuff. Usually I need to shoot digital because people need photos quickly. But yeah, for the most part, when it comes to press photos, I feel like people appreciate film as well. I think when you offer that, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like that's, they like film has become so popular now too. And I think people, a lot of times hire me because of a lot of my film work. So yeah, for the most part, people are usually generous with that, and they'll be like, okay, if you need a few extra days, like that's okay. And
it's great.
Yeah. So Yeah. But with that being said, neither of these are film. These are both digital. So,
I'm fine. What's
yeah,
the
so
creative
that's
process like a little bit? I know people were into, that's one of the questions that people sent to me is like, they want to know what your creative process like. And there isn't just one creative process, I'm sure. You have a lot of different situations that you're going into and whatnot, but like a shot on the left, for instance, like that's very different from, so if you put 10 different photographers there, thinking about 10 different things, but what made you come up with that, or what was that process like?
I mean, I just walked around. I just walked
Fair
around
enough.
the venue and I was just like, this is it. This looks cool. Like I knew what she was wearing and I saw those chairs and I was like, this is it. And I think a lot of that I learned by shooting at festivals or shooting in situations where you have, maybe 5 minutes to shoot with an artist. And, you're backstage at a festival and all you see is like, you know, white tents and like black tarp and like a tree. And you're like, okay, how am I going to make this look interesting?
Yeah.
And you do like, that kind of trains you to be more on the fly. And I think that's why anytime I do press photos, you know, if the artist wants studio shots, I like doing studio shots as well. You know, we'll do that. But then I also always want to do location shots as well, even if it's just like one other location. Usually I like to hop around and do a few. I think, partially because it's fun for me and the artist gets more variety, but also I think that's just kind of how I work well, just kind of walking around and be like, oh, that looks cool. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got the shot there. That was at Moog Fest in North Carolina. And the shot on the right was I was doing some backstage portraits at iHeart Country in Austin, which is actually, I shot that again a couple of weeks ago, which is one reason I was there. But yeah, this is one of my personal favorites because it's Yodel Kid, and I had no idea what he was there, and he just walked up, and I was like, oh my god, I was like slightly starstruck. Yeah, he just ended up doing this pose and just being like so natural on camera, and I don't know, it's very wholesome. Called me ma'am.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and then yeah, I think this is probably one of my. I might be wrong, but I think this is probably one of my more popular portraits, or at least it's been like shared the most. And it's Kevin Parker at Coachella. And yeah, I remember this year I felt like I was really, I think it was like 2015. And I felt like I was really starting to get in the swing with what I liked stylistically and how I liked lighting. And especially after Coachella, I felt like I really started getting a good sense of what I wanted my style to look like. And yeah, this is one of the portraits from that year. And this was shot I was doing portraits for Pitchfork.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is, yeah, so this shot of Angel Olsen on the left, this was one of my first shoots kind of in COVID era. And yeah, I remember we were both, I mean, everyone was like super hyper, like, just like, okay, we got to be really safe. And we're like, okay, we'll go to North Carolina. It'll just be us two. It was for the cover of DIY magazine. And she already lives there. She lives in Nashville. And yeah, we didn't really have a set plan. We just knew we had to do a cover shoot and, get some photos for a feature. And Angel knew about this secret garden that this older man, it's like his property, but he lets artists go out there and like write or just relax or play music or do whatever. And yeah, and he gave us access to this canoe. We went out on this lake and yeah, just took some photos. And that's definitely a good example of just kind of working on the fly. And the shot on the right was also for another DIY cover. That's Jack Antonoff. And we shot these at Electric Lady Studios. And I knew Jack had done a lot of photo shoots at Electric Lady. So that was just like, okay, how am I going to make it different? Just like another one of those scenarios. And yeah, it ended up being really fun.
Do you usually work alone, or do you get help sometimes, or do you use assistants ever?
It varies. Sometimes I work on my own. sometimes I'll get a friend to come and help, or an assistant. There have been a couple of times where I needed a few assistants. But yeah, most of the time it's either me on my own or me with like one other person helping me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also have an agent. So whenever she helps me get jobs, she's always super helpful, and, she's my guardian angel. And yeah, so every shoot can vary so much. Yeah, so this is Terry, I believe, from Le Butcherettes, and this is during South by, and this is just at the back of this restaurant, Corriente, and I really liked the wall, and we found this fan on the floor that matched her outfit, and yeah, it just kind of came together on a whim.
Serendipity. It's gorgeous.
So that the shot on the left was an accident, sort of a happy accident. We were doing it was with this artist called The Big Moon, and we were doing their cover shoot, and that is actually shot on aerochrome film. I don't know if y'all have ever messed with that, but it's about $45 a roll, and there's like this one guy, I think it was Berlin, that sells them on eBay. Yeah.
So is it a vintage film that still exists?
Yeah, so typically what it's meant to do is turn like greens into reds, and depending on what filter you use on the lens, it can turn into different shades of red or pink or whatever. But it's like the reading is all crazy, like how you would typically read film. It's not accurate. You have to like compensate ISO, and then it's really, really sensitive to light. So it could still be bright outside, but if there's no sun, the photos will go like completely blue. And so we got it just has a crazy effect. So there were, we got 4 rolls, and a couple of the rolls came out, how it was meant to, but then these couple of rolls just came out so weird, but we ended up loving them. Like, this is one of my favorite shots from the set. So yeah, I think over the years, especially when you see so many photos of the same thing, and you kind of see trends of like people, seeing one style and then so many other people kind of following that, whether they know they are or not. I think I've kind of embraced the idea of just being like, whatever happens with this film happens, because it's like to just have fun with it, and yeah, like embrace the imperfections. But yeah, so that this was a full circle moment, getting to shoot Arctic monkeys. I know if y'all remember that photo from earlier, but it's there have definitely been moments throughout, so many moments, but just throughout doing this where you're just like, wow, like I remember being a kid and waiting all day at a stage at a festival to shoot this band, and now I'm getting to do like portraits with them. And so I think the biggest thing that's kept me going, besides loving what I do, is definitely not taking any of this for granted. And yeah, like this moment, definitely was it might not be one of like my best portraits ever, but it was like a special moment for me. Yeah.
Where was it?
That was at ACL. So yeah, again, just kind of roaming around backstage, just trying to find some interesting corners. And I think this was it was one of those things where I had 5 minutes outside their trailer, and the crazy thing with this roll of film is I was on a cart going to another stage, and then the roll, as I was wrapping it, fell out of my hand and started rolling down the road, and was this close to getting in a puddle. And I was just like, stop the cart. And yeah, that was a close call. I could have potentially lost this roll of film. So don't try to unload your camera on a moving vehicle with no windows. Bad idea. Yeah, so these were also, I feel like I'm saying this for every shot, but most of my portrait work is really on the fly, because I feel like I like to leave space open for that, because I feel like that's how you capture the artist the best as well, with like this is Krungbin and Leon Bridges, and they were just like, come to Houston for a day and we'll get some press shots, and we didn't really have any sort of plan. And their studio just ended up looking great. And they had this, I think it was an Apple box that just said "Get Funky" on the side. And I was like, that's perfect. It's so subtle. Like, y'all look classic. It just, it just worked. And on the right, this is Waylon Payne. And I went out to Nashville to shoot some new press photos with him. And we just met at his house, and I walked in and I was like, your house looks incredible. And we weren't even thinking to shoot in his bedroom, but we went in there. We're like, this is the perfect setting. And ended up getting some shots. Yeah, it looked like a set.
I was going to ask you if you built a set. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you built a set for this, actually, because, I want to believe there are motels that look like this, but they really don't. You can't find a motel that looks like this anymore. And that's amazing. It's so
good. That's just his room. I was like, wait, why aren't we got to shoot in here? That was another one from that same year at Coachella, that Kevin Parker portrait. That's when I also got this shot. It's a Marina and the Diamonds. That shot with Faye, that was last year. And I went to Atlanta, and she brought up the idea of shooting at a rock climbing gym. And we ended up getting this shot. And
what's fun that? Just because of funky, or because she climbs, or just the colors are wild?
No, I don't think she climbs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she brought it up. She was like, oh, I think it might be a cool setting. We can just go try it out. And if it doesn't work, and we ended up getting the shot. But she also looks amazing. It was the backdrop and her outfit and just her. It just worked.
It's all very special.
Yeah, the one on the right is just Sunflower Bean at a show in Houston, and so this is Danny, who's the lead singer of Surfport, on the right, and then that's Fred Armisen on the left. And I mean, I love doing BTS stuff. I love being on set for videos. I just kind of, again, that's just kind of being a fly on the wall again. And this is a really fun day. And I think Danny had just met Fred at a party or something, and then he was like, let's do a video. And ended up being a lot of fun.
And so this picture makes me super happy.
I mean, how can it not?
I'm just so happy. I know I want this for my wall. I'm just smiling ear to ear with this. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's beautiful. Retest things out. Can you go back a second?
Of course.
There's there's just the little details that are around. So many people would go and clean, and you carried focus all the way through it, which I know I'm talking technical stuff, which I don't like to, but it's a conscious decision that you made, and I just find that so interesting. You've recorded this scene, like all of it, everything through it, very purposefully. And I think that's really brave.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I try to tell a story with every photo, right? I try to tell people what's going on. So
Sorry. Yeah. I didn't mean to distract you.
I mean, no, I'm glad you like the photo.
I do. I really do.
Here, that's Preoccupations on the left. My first time going to Calgary, Canada. And then that's Sam Fender on the right. And that was another shoot during South by, where we just met like downtown, and we're just like, what are we going to do? It's like 110 degrees outside, and everything is, so we just ended up walking into this gas station and getting some fun shots in there. This is a band Twin Peaks at Joshua Tree. It's like during a festival out there called Desert Days. And just like some black and white work.
Some dental dams.
Yeah, that was fun. I have way too many of those now. I bought like 100 just to use 5.
Oh my gosh, she looks demented. It's great.
And this is Fontaine's DC, and we were doing a shoot for DIY magazine. They were recording in LA. They were working on their second album, and I had like 20 minutes to kind of scout the area just to see what was around, and found this taco shop, and just asked the manager, like, is it okay if we just kind of take over this area for a second? And they were surprisingly chill about it. You never know with LA, it can be kind of but so the shot on the left was there's a good story behind that. I just it was a really fun afternoon because I had no idea I was going to be shooting Alex Cameron. I just got a text from one of the Margin Walker put on the show, and so one of my friends who works for Margin Walker, she was like, could you come like take some photos of Alex Cameron? Basically, he had like a rider that had 2 domesticated animals on it, and she had these Great Danes that she was like, I really would love to get some portraits with them. And yeah, so she actually brought her 2 Great Danes to the show, and we ended up taking some photos there. So that was a fun last minute shoot. And yeah, on the right is Sudan Archives, and that was right after her show at Desert Days last year. I just kind of like, you know, the little subtleties that kind of tell a story about her, from like I think those are Funyuns in the ground, the
Love
pink
Funyuns.
Crocs. Yeah, this is God, what year was this? I think this was 2013, and this is at Bonnaroo, and I also shot this for Pitchfork, and I was going around doing like Polaroid diptychs. I guess it was the pole film, like the Fuji pole film, and it was a lot of fun.
In one sheet, you shoot one, you pull it, and then you get another exposure in the same sheet. Right? Okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, you get, I think it was like 10 exposures per pack, but you could do like multiple exposures and stuff if you wanted to. But yeah, for this, I definitely learned the hard way. Do not take Mamiya RV67 to a festival. I think a lot of times I had to learn the hard way, like, you know, how am I going to work the most efficiently while having the right gear to get the best shots? And it took a bit of trial and error. And while I really liked the shots I got that
year. Can you tell people how large that camera is and what it takes to work that? Because a lot of people have no idea what that is, and you're brave.
Yeah. It's about like a 10-pound tank, like a medium format camera. And I had the Polaroid back on it. And basically it's like the worst camera to take to a sweaty, dusty festival. And you be using pole film, you know, and that drying, it was chaos. But you know, it was fun getting these shots. But I think, you know,
you must gain a certain amount of respect at moments, you know, by pulling this camera out, you know, oh, hey, I've got 2 minutes. Oh, you're going to shoot me with that. Oh, wait, you know what? I think I have 7 minutes suddenly, you know, I mean, I don't think it's every day that people, you know, see a Mamiya RV being pointed at them. Is that to an advantage ever for you? I mean, like having film and people, your subjects actually giving you a little more street cred and interest. Not that you need any cred, but you know, does the process itself interest your subjects sometimes?
I definitely found a trend of people gravitating towards film more, and especially with Polaroid. And you know, especially early on when I was just going around with my Polaroid camera taking photos of, you know, these bands that I liked at shows. I feel like people reacted differently to me pulling a camera out as opposed to, you know, someone pulling out this like big DSLR or something. I feel like people give a little bit more of themselves, they're a little more authentic. Like, I don't know what it is. It's something about the intimacy, which is, it's great. It's like, I love that. And that's what I want to capture.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy how much just like the camera can make a difference sometimes there. Yeah, here are a few other shots. It's on my friend's roof in New York. And this is a crazy day because I was on tour, and then Jay, who's in the band, just sent me a message. I think it was like a week or something before the shoot, and he was like, "Hey, so we're gonna be in Alabama, in Birmingham, on this day. Could you come take some press photos for us?" And so I basically jumped off tour from, I think, Columbus or something, drove down to Alabama, did these shots in like a few hours, and then drove up to Bonnaroo that same day. And sometimes I'm doing this job and I'm just like, how I don't know how I manage some of these like itineraries sometimes, but I don't know, on paper you look at it and you're like, this is actually psychotic. Like, like, but then it's always worth it, Like I think that's kind of how I found out I was like truly passionate about this. It's just like, yeah, I'll do that crazy travel schedule. I'll stay up all night. I'll do that. And you got to find like your boundaries. You got to learn, you can't completely burn yourself out, but it's like, yeah, I really want to do this and I'm willing to like go out of my way to do this thing. So that's something that I haven't lost and I hope I never lose when it comes to music and photography, just always discovering new music and always learning new ways to like develop. I think everyone talks about this, but you're your own worst critic, right? You always feel like sometimes it's hard to see the progress you're making, and then you look back on where you're at a year or two ago and you're like, oh, okay, I am making progress, and that kind of helps you keep going instead of just being like, oh, I have imposter syndrome and I just suck and I think yeah, uh taking that mindset and turning it into something positive and finding the balance between like uh, appreciating how far you've come, but also still knowing to push yourself it's that fine balance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well put, all of it.
Yeah, so a couple other portraits. Yeah, this is when I went to Tulsa to shoot with Broncho, and I think the lead singer Ryan just had to go to this store. I forgot what he was trying to get just for their warehouse, and then we went to the basement, and we're like, "Wait, there's like hundreds of mannequins down here. We got to do the shooting here." So that was just an accident. We kind of found this location in this basement in Tulsa, and ended up being pretty fun. Um, so the shot on the left, that was on tour with Idols last year, and that was just on Halloween. And yeah, definitely a special tour moment. And the shot on the right, uh, it's a special one for me. It's with this band White Denim in Austin, and it's
Oh,
special
White
because
Denim.
I feel like it kind of captured a different side of the band. Like I remember specifically going into that shoot and the lead singer just being like, "Man, every time people try to shoot us, they try to make us look so serious. I just want to like dress like a clown or just do something." Then we just like literally did that. Yeah, it ended up being really fun.
Are these clothes that
And
I've seen White Denim and I don't remember them looking like this. Is this for you for the photograph, or is this something that they look like this now and I just haven't seen it in 20
no,
years?
no. So this was so Steve, the bass player, his wife, I think works in theater or costume design. So she just had all this stuff that she brought, just all this like
So just
wacky
having fun.
clothes, and yeah, so we just kind of mixed and
Totally.
matched there. But yeah, it's all them. And this is kind of on the same plane. Was at Bonnaroo, and it was a band called Swim Deep, and there was this tent where it was some sort of like theater troupe that I think it's a theater troupe. I'm not 100%, but they're there every year, and they have this tent full of just crazy costumes like this, and they just kind of let us go to town. Um, and yeah, I remember like I think this was the first time I shot in that tent. I did a couple of things there since then that were different, but I remember seeing that and being like, okay, the next artist, like I want to shoot in this area, I'm going to take them in there. So
No
it's
doubt.
that's like yeah, just even when you're at a festival and stuff, just kind of pre-scouting and just be like, okay, that'll be cool. That it's just so you're ready for it, because you do have such little time, um, especially in those environments. Yeah, so these next few slides are a bit more of like my tour stuff. Um, yeah, the shot on the left is Glass Animals, and anytime we just kind of had a break where no one's doing anything, you're on tour to take photos, right? So it's just like, okay, can we just like use these 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just go take some portraits and yeah, just kind of capture the scene of what's happening. And yeah, the shot on the right was just the laundry day, I think in Kansas City. And so it was kind of just the same thing. It's like, okay, how like some, sometimes like the funnest thing is just to try to make something that is seemingly so mundane look interesting. And yeah, this is probably my favorite shot from that tour. And of all places, it's like a laundromat, you know?
It's great. It's very prominent on your website. I love it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is just like a backstage moment on that tour that was with Beck and Sunflower Bean and Cage the Elephant. And yeah, that shot is also from that tour on the left. And the shot on the right is a really special one for me because that was on tour with Courtney Barnett. I think that was the first tour I did with her. And yeah, this was just like a crazy day because we were in DC and I just got a text from Courtney and she was like, "Hey, so I'm about to head down in like 15 minutes to go meet Ian MacKaye. Do you want to come with me?" I was like, what? And
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
yes, of course. And yeah,
Is
of
this his
course,
house?
like, yeah, so that's the
Okay.
house.
Yeah.
That's like the Minor Threat,
Minor
the
Threats cover.
photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the steps
And
from that
those
famous.
are the steps.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
grew
so
up with that album. Yeah.
yeah, so like we got there and I immediately saw it and I was like, wait, we're at the house, and their Discord warehouse, like the Discord Records warehouse, is across the street. And I was nervous on the inside, and Ian was so friendly and took us inside and gave us a tour, and he had like all these old photos and stuff on the wall, and
Uh-huh.
just was just like, so like, you want to take some photos? And posed. And yeah, we got these shots, and then they hung out and did their thing, and I just went to a coffee shop and like hung out until they were finished. But to be able to like, I don't know, this is just like definitely a very surreal moment of just getting to meet him, and I don't know, just
It's as
see
iconic
see
as
something from a yeah see something from a photo that's so iconic in person like that. And to be there with Courtney was awesome.
and to hear that he's a really nice, like looking grandfather right now or something makes me really happy too.
Yeah, he was so pleasant, great guy. Yeah, another shot, just a moment on tour. This is with King Gizzard. Um, and yeah, that was just kind of crazy how that happened. And it was just, uh, what one of the guys in the band was also like really into photography, and like I met them once before this at Bonnaroo and just took some photos of them, and then uh yeah, I think this is like a few months later we just kind of started talking, and then I just kind of did a run. I think it was from Austin to New York, and ended up being really fun. Yeah, a few other tour ones. That's the moment on the left. That's where were we? Uh it was this really small college, Marquette. I think Marquette, Illinois or something. And we had like 15 minutes to go shower, like all six, like, I mean, I just went and like hung out, but we had like six members in like this one hotel room. And it was just like really quickly, like before we had to get to the show. And this was just, I don't know, capturing the chaos of that moment, I guess. Um, and yeah, the shot on the right was actually from a few weeks ago. I was on tour with Spoon for a few days. It's from a Cage tour. And yeah, so that's some of the tour stuff. And then here are just like a few album covers I've done just in the last few years. The one on the bottom right was shot in my bathroom, which is fun. Um, and a couple of other yeah, so these 2 days were more like shooting BTS stuff, but it was working with Electric Lady, which was, super cool for me. It was just like a pinnacle moment for sure. And then a couple of album covers just here and there throughout the years. And yeah, so I definitely still shoot on Polaroid, and you know, keep trying to find ways to like elevate that as much as I can. And these have just been like a couple of my favorite moments that are a little more recent. And yeah, and this last one, so this is the last shot, and I made this the last one because the Strokes are probably the most formative band for me of all time. And you know, got to see them a lot when I was a kid, and just getting this moment, it was just a really quick last minute shoot, and they were like, we need some new photos for the EP. And I went in there and they were pretty much just like, yeah, we just want a couple of Polaroids. And I was like, okay. And yeah, just did a quick shoot, and they ended up using this shot. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, this, as far as full circle moments, this is probably the biggest moment for me. So I thought it might have been a good note to end on. I think if it wasn't, thank you.
Oh, you can hear the entire audience clapping. And I'm really, really happy to see a whole bunch of questions have come through. And that was fabulous. My gosh, you covered a lot of ground. Thank
Sorry
you.
if I was rambling for a minute there.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. My gosh, it's a blur. And I can't wait to go back to your website and actually revisit some of the shots, knowing some of the stories behind them. So thank you so much. I'm wondering if at this point, we bring it back to Wendy and maybe look at some of the questions. I do kind of want to, I have one for myself though, like what's next for you, whether it's a big personal project or just a tour you're going on, or even just a shoot that's coming up. Like what's something that you're looking forward to?
Oh man, well, it's going to be a pretty busy few months. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of already started, but festival season is in full swing. So there's definitely a lot of cool things coming up. You know, Bonner is coming up again. I think doing Forecastle, Pitchfork. Yeah, so just kind of, you know, it's exciting. Festivals are really back. So just kind of getting back in the swing of that, and,
So
you know, yeah, getting to shoot alongside my friends and travel and do all of that. Yeah, grateful.
Love it. Thank you.
All right, and then if you want to go ahead and stop sharing your screen there, and then we can go through some of the questions so then everyone can see you when we're answering the questions. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So first we have festival backstages can sometimes be sterile visually. Do you ever use props or backdrops during your festival portraits?
Yeah, you know, I definitely, more so like early on, you know, there's been like, you know, I remember one year at ACL, I was just like, all right, I'm going to try to bring a bunch of like backdrops and maybe like, you know, some fake flowers or something. And then you kind of do those things and some of them work and then some of them are cheesy and you're like, okay, maybe that didn't. But I think especially now, I try to just work more with the environment and, you know, trying to capture the artist in that element more than trying to make it look like a studio there or something.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So let's see, and this one is from Chris. Have you ever worked videography in your workflow alongside stills?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've started directing some more videos, especially in the last few years. But yeah, I think early on, you know, even when I was first, like in high school, like I got you know, late high school, early college, I think is when I got my first, or yeah, late high school, early college, around then, I got my first Super 8 camera. And so with that, I was just kind of experimenting a bit. And then I started doing more like moving portraits. So that was kind of like my first dive into the video world. And then from there, I started making, you know, taking it on tour and doing some like smaller tour videos. And then, you know, then got asked to do like my first music video. So it was definitely a natural progression. And now, you know, I've started doing more music videos, which I think overall that's the next big thing I'm excited about, is just learning more about that world and getting better at that and the more technical side of things, you know. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's see here. And Carla wants to know, what was your lighting setup for the Marina shot as well as the Kevin Parker shot?
I think with that, I just had my flash, and no, I definitely remember it because I remember I'd make my friends hold it or tour managers hold it. It's just a giant, just obnoxious reflector, and I would use that and just bounce my flash off it. And it surprisingly worked well, especially when you're like on the fly like that. I mean, it works better in more confined spaces, but yeah, it just gave like a really nice, soft kind of spread light.
Let's see, this one's from Timothy. What's one band that you'd like to shoot that you haven't had the chance so far?
Oh my God, that's That's a tough one. BTS. Or like I've never shot the Rolling Stones. I mean, if they're still touring, right? I got to shoot Glastonbury one year, the year they were headlining, and the same time they were playing, because I was on assignment with the publication, they put me on assignment to shoot the Bootleg Beatles, which are I would say probably one of like the better Beatles cover bands, but they were playing the same time as the Rolling Stones, and basically I shot them so like the publication can be like, why are you at the Bootleg Beatles when you can be like watching the Rolling Stones? It was something like that. And I was just like, come on. But yeah, it's that's a tough question.
Understandable. You photographed so many so far. Let's see, we have a couple more. So Timothy wants to know, what is your film of choice?
Cinestill. I love Cinestill. I've definitely gravitated more towards that over, like portrait is great. It's great when you need something that's like predictable and like color accurate. But, I kind of like the accidents, kind of like what I was saying earlier. And I think Cinestill, the look of it is similar. It's very close to how I would want to edit my photos anyway. So I've just, it's not everybody likes it, but it's definitely the one I use almost solely now. And Polaroid 600.
Classic. It's a classic. Let's see. What are your tips for photographers wanting to go on tour?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just like putting yourself out there, just asking. Like, I think you'd be surprised how many artists don't even think about having a tour photographer. And then once it's like brought up to them, they're just like, oh yeah, I mean, it'd be great to have someone documenting everything. So yeah, I just think putting your work out there, like having that available for people to see, and then just like, if there's an artist you like, just ask, and again, like worst thing they can do is like say no or not respond. But like one of my very, very first tours, I just, totally on a whim, I was like, this is just a shot in the dark. And the band was like, yeah, come on tour with us. We'll get you connected with our manager. It's like, oh, I'm like, okay.
I love that philosophy. Just, it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst they can say is no. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but it's hard for a lot of people to do that, to put yourself out there.
I mean, same. I still struggle with that. I still get nervous,
I will double down on that. Just ask. I've gotten so many interesting jobs or projects that came out of that. Just ask. And sometimes you're super surprised and it takes you in a completely different direction. And it's wonderful. So yes.
All right, we just have a couple of more. Let's see. Someone wants to ask about your educational background. Was your schooling photography related or more practical hands-on approach?
So everything I learned about photography was completely on my own. I, of all things, have a marketing degree. So I graduated high school a year early because I just went to my counselor and I was like, how can I get out of here? Like, I just want to get to Austin already. And so like, did stacked up on classes, did all my requirements, and graduated a year early, and then ended up moving to Austin when I was 18. And went to UT, and then UTSA, then UT, and funnily enough, the first semester I was going to school to do pharmacy because I was like, you're 18, and it's like I knew I wanted to do photography, but it's like, okay, I should go to school and get a degree. And like my dad, he works, like he's a chemist, so he was like, well, pharmacists make 80 grand a year, and I was just like, all right, well, I'll take a semester of this and see how it goes, and absolutely hated it. And basically just kind of realized after that semester, it's like, I'm like pretty much just doing this to make my parents happy. And, college, I think going to school taught me a lot, and I'm really happy I got my degree. And I think that, college, if anything, taught me just how to put discipline on myself, and I definitely use that when it comes to photography. But the entire time I basically planned it out to where I was doing all my classes on 2 days, And the rest of the time I was focusing on my photography and doing that. So like by the time I got my degree, I was doing photography full time. So yeah, it was definitely nice to, finally get my dad's approval. I think even after years of me kind of like doing this full time, my dad was just like, okay, but like, what's your other plan? Like, have you been looking at like other jobs in your field? And then the day he was just like, have you ever thought about opening up a studio? I was just like, I was gonna cry. It's like I finally have his approval. So, and now they're definitely proud. But yeah, long story short, I do have a degree, but it's not in photography. Everything from processing film, from learning different lighting techniques, I just learned on the internet. You can do that now. Like you were able to do that in 2008.
Yep, so true.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. There's just a couple more here. Julian wants to know, do you have any techniques for encouraging shy subjects to show their most natural self when you're photographing them?
I think just, I don't know, the thing that I've learned is people resonate with like realness the most. So I think the best thing I can do is just be myself. The best thing I can do with a person is just, like connect with them on like a basic human level and not treat them as though they're like an artist or as though they're like something else. I just kind of, I think I find the more that I'm myself, the better the shoot goes. And I think people connect with that. So even if I'm like a, I don't know, just a weirdo or whatever, it's just like, well.
Making people feel comfortable, absolutely. Then you
Yeah.
get this stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. So let's see. What's your go-to camera gear for shooting a show?
Well, I was shooting Canon for a long time. I had I went through most of the 5D series and then switched over to Sony. So right now I have the A1, and depending on the show, typically I'm good with like a 24-70, but at festivals you usually have that and something longer, like a 70-200 or something. But yeah, when it, and sometimes you need two bodies. But for the most part, recently I've just been going with my A1 and my 24-70 and then a flash just in case.
Let's see, if anyone has any more, I think there's one more. How do you balance the use of flash versus natural light, stage lights when shooting live versus portraits and press?
That's a lot of questions. That's a big question. Pick one.
I mean, I think with live, you just kind of have to take it. I mean, you kind of have to take every show as it comes. Sometimes the lighting's amazing and you don't need flash at all, or sometimes it's pitch black and you need a flash, or sometimes shooting flash stylistically works well with the artist. So yeah, you just completely have to work with your environment in every situation. It's kind of hard to have like a set answer for that. Same goes with portraits.
Well, that's what we have in the Q&A. So I think that covered everything. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Bill, do you have any other questions?
No, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been such a lovely time, and good luck with all your future endeavors. I'm glad I don't have a summer as busy as yours, but I look forward to seeing what you create and following
thank you.
So happy
Thanks.
to know you and your work.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank y'all for taking the time to do this and having me, and to everyone listening. Thanks for joining.
We're totally grateful and totally honored.
Absolutely, a big honor. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to meet you, and have a great night.
Likewise. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Pooneh.
Bye, everyone.